Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Red Letter, Yellow Letter podcast, a weekly anarchist, voluntary, agorist variety podcast where we talk about and philosophize the morals and ethics of everything going on in the world today, tomorrow, and in the future. I'm your host, The Nev, and I'm joined by my lovely co-host and fellow anarchist, Harley. Harley, how are you today?
Spicy.
Yeah, you
Fed
are
up.
spicy. We've been getting spicy. Just previous.
I know
Like,
we've been rambling for like a half hour
we
about
have.
things that are pissing us off.
It's like, well, I've got
Without
a
even
list of
recording
things.
it.
I've got a list of things here that we're supposed to talk about, and there is no way that we would be able to get all of this stuff in five. There's no way we'd be able to get all of this stuff in 90 minutes. But
Nope.
so it's just going to be, fair warning to those of you watching or listening, it's going to be all over the place today because
It's been a bullshit
Harley
week.
is
That's
spicy.
why.
Yes. So yeah, I mean, I've got. I mean, my list has fat shaming, hypocrisy, people who behave like assholes, Ron Paul, and the one person rule written on it, and that's just half of what we've talked about in the last. Yeah, that's what we've talked about recently. So yeah, so go, Harley, go.
Oh, I'm supposed to just
go.
dive right in and just start bitching about everything.
Yeah. Well,
okay.
there was the thing
Because I struggle to do that.
Yeah. Oh God, you struggling to talk? No.
I know. Shocker.
You struggling to find something to discuss? I mean, this morning I got a good morning, and then I got. Hang on a minute. I'm going to count them.
Come on.
And then I got.
This is like every day.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
good morning.
6, 7,
Here's
8.
bullshit that pisses me off.
Good morning. I did a quick response back, and then I got 50-odd second voice responses.
I was in a tizzy. Okay, last night pissed me off because I'm sick of this particular freaking. Imagine that. I'm pissed off with social justice warrior bullshit. What a big freaking shock, right? I know. Okay.
Tell everybody what pissed you off last night.
What pissed me off? All right. So, a lot of my followers know. Some don't know. But a lot of them do know. I had quite a body transformation over the past few years. Okay. I lost a lot of weight. I also, what a lot of people don't always know is how much shit I get for it from body positive. For those of you just listening, little quotes in the air, body positive women who, and it's always women who do this to me, I swear, who are, I don't know if it's jealousy, insecurity, or what, but they give me shit for losing weight. And what happened last night, there was this Facebook group, right? And someone put up a photo. It's a very big Facebook group. They put up a photo. Some of you may have seen this. There's two different representations of this image, a man version and a woman version. And both of them have a statue of a very obese individual. I'm not talking like a little chubby. I'm not talking like, oh, I've got 50 pounds to lose. I'm talking like morbidly unhealthy, probably using a scooter, like
someone who has put their health at
obese.
Serious risk.
Like legit health risk obese. Okay. And it's like the bottom half is that person. So you can kind of like see the gut and you can see the legs and everything. And then the top half is this fit, muscled, toned man or woman. And they're chiseling away at the fat. And it's just like a representation of, wanting to lose weight and get not just like thin. It's not even just like a standard thin person. It's somebody who put on a lot of muscle and got like fit, strong,
Mm-hmm.
And someone put that up like, oh, this is inspirational, blah, blah, blah. And there are a lot of people in there who agree. And they're like, oh yeah, I'm going in here. Yeah, I'm trying to lose weight. I'm trying to get healthy again. It's a struggle to do this and that. And I want to feel healthy and active and live my best life. And then you get those people in there going, oh my God, you're so fat phobic. This is problematic. Throwing a freaking fit, right? And so I'm just so known to keep my mouth shut. I go in there and I'm like, you know what? I'm like, look, sorry, not sorry. There's nothing fat phobic about this. I'm like, it's not like this. I flat out said the starting image here, the bottom half, it's not just like a chubby person. It's not somebody who just has some extra pounds to lose. This is a legitimate health risk size. Like the figure didn't even have like ankles, it was like legit, like you're going to die soon size. I'm like, this is a actual, like the starting point is health risk. The top half isn't just thin because, ooh, thin culture or whatever the hell they call it now. It's somebody who wanted to build strength, muscle, be active and fit. It's a much more positive transformation. And for those who want to lose weight, there's nothing wrong with that. And I put up my before and after photos I said, look, I lost 80 pounds. I got sick of not being able to pick up my kids without it being a major struggle. I got tired of not being able to run for more than like 30 seconds without just being in pain and winded. I didn't want that life for myself. I wanted to be able to keep up with my kids. And so here's my transformation. And the comments were actually filled with a lot of positive, well, I don't know about the comments, but I got a lot of reactions, like heart reacts, etc. Lots of positive reactions to it, right? And my friend's like, I think your comment's gone. I'm like, are you kidding me? And yeah, they actually took it down. And I'm like, why was my comment taken down? I'm like, there's other people on here encouraging others to lose weight because mine has a before and after photo. It's what, bad? I'm like, why would this get removed? And then I was banned.
Oh, blimey.
I was full on banned. I'm like, are you effing kidding me? Like,
how long you been
I've
in the
never
group?
caused a problem in this group before ever, but I'm getting banned because I'm like, hey, those of you who want to lose weight, here's some encouragement to do so. Are you kidding me? Yeah. And I'm sick of it. I am so sick of this coddle me, ooh, my feelings behavior. Like, it's everywhere. I am fucking sick of it. You know,
no, I mean,
then,
the people that banned you clearly don't give a shit about the health and safety of
no, they don't. Which is so ironic because everyone's so afraid of COVID right now.
It's
but
like,
then when it comes to actually living a healthy lifestyle, it gets shut down and silent.
Yeah, you know, you don't. They clearly don't want people to, eat healthily, take vitamins, exercise. I mean, they're just garbage human beings. I mean, why would you want to be a garbage human being that does not care about people's health? I mean,
right.
As far as I'm concerned, you're rid of a bad group of people. Whoever's in charge of that Facebook group. I mean, if you're watching this, the people that banned her, you're a garbage human being.
Those of you in the weird art group who are so damn sensitive that you can't handle somebody else's progress photos and their own personal transformation, their own positivity, go fuck yourself.
Yeah. Oh, no. It's not
the damage you're doing to other people
who
are trying to save their own goddamn lives. Yeah. Honestly.
Yeah. It's because they don't care. There's no other reason.
It's about their feelings. And that's what they say. It's elitist. It's ableist to say, well, I can lose weight. Okay. You know what? Let me tell you something right now. I am type 1 narcoleptic. That means perpetual exhaustion. It means my body randomly going paralyzed and numb or full on unconscious at any given moment. I have permanent knee damage that I got 15 years ago from a random fainting episode and paralysis episode in the middle of a squat machine. Okay. It's legitimately dangerous for me to use gym equipment, but I do it. On top of that, plus the knee damage, permanent, lifelong, chronic back pain. My spine is so damn fucked up. It doesn't even have a name. They were just like, wow, because I had full on body x-rays done when I was 10 and they just went, what the hell? Because it's just jacked up. Okay. 3 times a week, chiropractor visits since I was 10 years old. All right. So chronic back pain, mother of 2, thyroid issues, and genetic issues. Yes, proven genetic issues. I have to exert 2 to 3 times more energy to burn weight and keep it off than the average person. Okay. I have every goddamn odd against me. And that's why it took me 6 years to get me where I am. There are people who, I lost 80 pounds in 1.5 years. No, it took me 6 years to get to this point because of all these factors. So for you to invalidate my issues, my own health issues, and then to call me problematic because I fucking tried, it's bullshit. And, a couple of my friends have noticed too, there's a lot of ads for body positive clothing, leggings and shorts, stockings, etc. And they say body positive, and they will have women from average, slim size, whatever, petite, to very, very morbidly obese. They never have women that have any ounce of muscle tone in these ads, ever. They just don't. They live it out. And it's like, why? If you're so body, these are gym clothes. You're advertising gym clothes. You're advertising yoga pants and stuff. So why not advertise it to people who go to the gym?
No, I think
big, thick, muscled women. Trust me, it's hard to find clothes that fit. My arms, I usually have to wear tanks because t-shirts often don't fit my freaking arms. Okay, like it would be nice, and my thighs too. I just am built that way. It would be nice to have clothing advertised and shown. Hey, yeah, if it's women who work this lifestyle, that's not what we're shown. Why are you leaving this out? Why are you so body positive that you're leaving muscled women out? That doesn't make sense.
It does depend on the platform. You'll find the advertisements for those types of clothes on Instagram. I
usually see them on Facebook.
Oh, you're not going to see them on Facebook. You're not.
You mean the actual like fit?
Yeah, the
ones?
fit.
I'll see those on Instagram. I never see them on Facebook.
Yeah, you're not going to see them on Facebook, but you will see them on Instagram. Instagram's where you're gonna see them.
I think that's just because at that point you're using more hashtags. Like I have a lot of gym progress photos with gym progress hashtags, so it's more catered. The ads are more catered to what I actually am interested in. Mm-hmm. But I see all these ads on Facebook and it's body positive, body positive. Yeah, if you're not like any sort of toned, then it's body positive. Are you really body positive? And that's another thing too. I mentioned I'm narcoleptic. You know how many freaking shaming comments I have gotten since I started losing weight? And it's pretty much always women who say this. I mean, I get men who have said it too, because they're just, I don't know, but it's usually plus size women who say this. And guys, keep in mind, I don't have it. If you're plus size, that's you. I don't care. I'm not going to see you as less of a person. I'm going to see you as less when you say shit like this to me. You don't look healthier to me. You just look more exhausted. I'm fucking narcoleptic. Yes, I look exhausted. I'm always exhausted. I have an actual disorder. So, miss, I can't exercise because I have a disorder. Maybe you shouldn't make comments about how I look like shit to you because I have a fucking disorder. Like, yeah. God, you'll talk about invisible illnesses and everything, and it's true. It's all correct. Don't judge somebody's looks and everything because you don't know what they're going through. You don't know what kind of illnesses they have. You don't know what kind of struggles they have, which is why I'm not going out there going, oh, you need to exercise. You need to exercise. I don't know what struggles they're going through. I don't. And I know how difficult it is to get that ball going. It really is a struggle. I get it. But don't act high and mighty like that. You can't just talk the talk. You got to walk the walk, essentially. You can't act like, oh, I'm all for body positivity and all for supporting women on how they want to look. And, you can't make comments like this because you don't know their struggles. And then do all those negative comments to me, literally just because, well, you look so tired. You don't look healthier to me. You just look exhausted. Yeah, there's an actual reason for that. Okay. Like, God,
yeah, no, it's not actual.
It pisses me off.
It's not actual fat shaming, because when you take the actual words themselves, shaming is it's behaving in a negative manner towards someone whose actions have had negative consequences. So right. Actual fat shaming would be examples of mocking a fat person that's at the gym.
Right.
Or riding a bike. Now, if I see, if I see a large person that's trying to lose weight at a gym or on a bike, I look at that person and I think, good on you. Well, good for you. That's great. You are acting in a positive way. Right. Talking about it, but in a positive way, is not shaming somebody.
Right.
Perfect example of that was was when and let's be honest. I mean, even he'll admit that he behaves like an arsehole 9 out of 10 times. Was when Milo Yiannopoulos was at the gym and he tweeted a photograph of a fat person in his gym and he mocked them, and I saw that and I thought, you're an asshole.
Yeah, that's
the person is there because they've come to the realization, hey, you know what? I've probably got this. There's probably too many extra pounds here. I'm gonna get rid of them. because it'll be healthier for me, and and I won't run out of breath, and I'll enjoy doing things outdoors.
And it's a personal choice.
That's
bottom line. It's a personal choice.
Yeah, that is fat shaming. Talking about how, talking in a positive way about how people can extend their lives, and extend their healths and live longer and enjoy their lives more. That's not shaming somebody, because there's nothing negative in what they're saying. So what you were talking about, there's nothing negative. What you were doing was saying, here's what I look like and here's what I am now. And it's like, that's a positive. It's not shaming anybody into doing what you did. I never
just go to these people and be like, hey, you need to lose weight. That's not something I do. It's those who are like, hey, I'm trying, but I'm nervous about going to the gym because I'm afraid of being shamed. Or, I don't know where to begin. People sometimes go to me for help and tips and go, wow, this is amazing. What did you do? And it's like, oh, sure, here's what I did. I never just go to people like, oh, you need to lose weight. This looks terrible. I mean, I can honestly look at a plus size woman and, see her like all done up and even in like lingerie, ever go, oh, she looks beautiful. Look at her. Good for her. She looks fantastic. She has all this confidence. That's great. I'm not going to shame them. That's not what I do. But if they come to me and they just want encouragement, hey, I want to start this journey. What do I do? Hey, here you go. Good on you. That's not, how is that shaming? It's their personal choice. It's what they decided they want to do. There's nothing wrong with wanting to be healthier. I actually tell people, I'm like, I'm not losing weight and trying to get in shape because I'm trying to look attractive. I'm doing it because I want to look intimidating so people leave me alone. That's what I tell people. That's honestly what's more important to me. I'm doing this because I want to be active. I want to be healthy. I want to be strong. If something happens to me, if there's some kind of worst case scenario, whatever, I have to defend myself or I have to, whatever may happen. I don't know. I want to have the physical capability to handle the situation the best I can. Mm-hmm. That's what it comes down to me. I mean, to me, it's really not much different than like food preppers or people who practice the gun range often, etc. It's just a survival tactic, just building your strength, being as healthy as you can be. It's a survival. That's all it is for me. And I encourage other people to do the same because that's just smart to do.
Yeah, you go and watch the first 5 minutes. Just go and watch the first 5 minutes of Zombieland. Go and watch the first 5 minutes of Zombieland.
I always say that I want to be Tallahassee when I grow up.
Yeah, you want to be Tallahassee, do you? Just go and watch the first 5 minutes. Go and watch the first 5 minutes of Zombieland and the rules for surviving Zombieland. Because first rule for surviving Zombieland is cardio.
Right.
Cardio.
Which honestly, my cardio is not as good as well. That's my problem though. Is my cardio has improved. It has, but it is a struggle because of my jacked up knee. And I mean, now keep in mind, guys. It used to be where I couldn't even do one squat without falling over. That's how screwed up my knee has been for years. It's still difficult, but I can do like 30 now. My knee wants to just full on kamikaze into oblivion afterward, but I can do it. Okay. I mean, I couldn't even do a crunch. I literally used to not even be able to do a crunch, and now I can do 100, you got to start somewhere. I understand there's actual physical limitations, but you're never going to improve if you just don't flippin' try, honestly. Even if it's just baby steps, something is better than nothing.
Yeah, that's why I like getting on the bike. That's mine. That's my exercise. I get on the bike.
Gosh, yeah.
I get on the bike and I go for a ride. I used to, it depends on the time of the, it really, really does depend on the time of year. Sometimes, especially during the cooler periods of the year, I'll get out on the bike every single day and I'll do 6 miles. I'll do 3 out. I'll do 3 out and then I'll do 3 back. But when it's really, really, really hot, and it's too hot to ride, then it's sod it, I'm walking.
Yeah.
It's walking. It's how long, I'll pick a really long podcast. I'll pick something that's like an hour long and I'll be like, right, okay, how long? Okay, so I'll just walk for the length of this podcast.
I can't even be out in the heat that long. That kills me. Too hot. Well,
the thing, I swear by it. If you don't like that, just get yourself a Camelback. It's the
Yeah.
easiest way. Get yourself a Camelback and fill it with ice and water.
Yeah.
And by the time you're out, trust me, the ice will have melted, but the water will still be cold. But yeah, because a lot of people, I don't want to carry a water bottle. I don't want to carry this. It's like, seriously, just get a Camelback. They're really
Yeah.
really good. And you know, you just clip it there. And if you want to, you drink that. You got your earphones on. You got your podcast in front of you, and you're just walking along. And it's just, yeah, it's so mumuch easier. So
I like to do my bike when it's cooler for sure. We have dirt roads out here. Like, I mean, this little neighborhood, so to speak, it's like 5 houses, but it's all dirt road for a good bit, and it kind of has like weird little loopy areas that's just like all dirt roads. It's actually pretty fun to ride around. The whole loop itself is only like 1.5 miles or something like that, but there's also a bunch of little like paths you can kind of go down. It's just all dirt, bumpy road. So I mean, it's pretty. It jars up my knee pretty good, but I mean, it's a fun little path. But it's just so darn hot that I pretty much only, even in the evenings during this time of year, it's still like freaking 90 degrees. You know?
God, no,
Yeah.
I
So-
cannot cycle. I can't cycle on, you know, rough terrain. I mean, I know a lot of people that enjoy the whole mountain bike, you know, off terrain. But they're all geared up with the proper stuff. You know, they've got the proper gear. I'm literally just going out in shorts and t-shirt, and I've got no gloves. So a rough terrain.
Well, I don't either.
Rough terrain, I end up, you know, if the terrain is really really rough, I end up getting blisters here because of the constant. You've got the lip on the handlebars.
Oh yeah.
And the rubbing on that from the constant shaking of your hands while you're holding it, and I always end up with blisters on the inside.
See, my problem is that I'm an adrenaline junkie. I like it to be exciting. I don't like that's why I hate like jogging and stuff. Honestly, it's just because I get bored. But if I'm on my bike and it's all bumpy and lots of turns and stuff, and it's like, wee, roller coaster, you know? But yeah, so in the summer, I was doing swimming until they shut down all the pools because COVID. So that kind of makes me angry. Yeah. Hoping they open back up soon because I miss it. But yeah, I love swimming. That's what I like to do. I like to do the mountain biking and I like to swim. And then I do whatever weight trainings either at the gym or from home.
Yeah, no, I get that.
I used to do Just Dance.
Just Dance. Oh, what?
Yeah, like the video games
on the Xbox Connect.
Well, actually, on YouTube, you can actually find pretty much every single like throw-on gameplay of every single song.
Yeah, I know. I was searching for Star Wars ones the other day, so yeah.
Yeah, you don't even have to like really buy them. Like, I mean, I was doing that. I was using the Kinect and stuff and actually playing it, and then I realized how many of them were on YouTube, and I was like, wait. And so yeah, I would. And then when I first really started trying to lose weight, keep in mind I started like 216 pounds. That's what I was doing. I was putting on Just Dance on YouTube and I mean, obviously I don't know how well I was doing, but that wasn't the point. The point was to be moving. So I was doing.
The point is to be active. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I started off doing mostly the arm movements because again, my knee was just crap. It was really hard for me to do a lot of the up and down stuff. There's a lot of squatting and standing. There's jumping. There's a lot of stuff like that. And it was really hard for me to do with my knee. And so I started dieting and I started just doing mostly the upper body movements. And sometimes I would hold like Zumba weights or something in them until my knee started just gaining more and more stamina over time. And as it gained more stamina, I would push myself a little more and just kept doing that until eventually I started adding jogging into the mix. But I had to start easy. I was jogging in place on a yoga mat because that was releasing the pressure from my knee. And I would do that. I started off literally only being able to do like 10 minutes. And then within, I don't know, 3 months or something, I was doing that for like an hour. You know, I mean, if you really keep trying, you'll be surprised with what you can do. I honestly didn't think I'd be able to do more than like 5 crunches ever. And I'm able to do them just fine now. You know, like, I think that's a big problem too. It's just all the self-doubt. A lot of people are so afraid of the failure at first. Well, I can't even do a crunch. Okay, well then that's why you need to start training yourself. No, I couldn't do one either, and now I can. And
welcome to Keep Fit with Harley and the Nev.
Right.
We are no longer the Red Letter Yellow podcast. We are Keep Fit with Harley and Nev.
I can just ramble. I mean, this isn't the first time I've had a big weight loss journey either. I was a fat kid. I'm not gonna lie. I was a little bubble.
No,
I was actually on the Atkins diet by the time I was 11.
I was a chunky. Let's see, I was chunky, and I was very very chunky. From probably, let's see, um, oh God, yeah, no, good 10 years. So I would say from around about, actually, I would probably say around about 2008, like just under 10 years, from around about 2008 until about 2015. I slowly but surely put on a lot of weight, and that's I was doing a lot of project manager gigs at the time, so
Hmm.
I was either in my car or I was sat behind a laptop. I mean, yeah, sure, I'd have to walk sites and make sure that third-party contractors were doing their job, but
But it was
that's not
still
really exercise. So, I
right.
was eating much much better. Um,
I was
but yeah, and then I went and worked in a steel factory for 2 years,
that'll do it.
and oh my God, my first day
Yeah.
in there, my friends just totally took, because I was struggling because I hadn't done any real major physical exertion for quite some time, like literally
Yeah.
years and years and years. So I was blowing out my ass, and every 5 minutes, because I started in the summer, because obviously it's a steel factory, so I'm wearing a hard hat and it's got those pads across there. Like every five
Mhm.
minutes, I'm pushing the front, leaning forward, and the sweat was
Oh God.
literally just pouring out of the helmet.
Oh.
That's how much I was hanging out my ass. But by the time I got to, two years down the, 2 years down the line, I mean, I should show you a full on before and after photograph, because my before and that was literally just from a job, not doing any exercise.
Hmm.
Not what would you call legitimate exercise. I would just the unintended positive consequence of the job that I was doing was I was constant on my feet. I was constantly walking around, and I was
Yeah.
constantly lifting a lots and lots of heavy objects. So yeah, the positive unintended consequences were I got extremely slim and slender, and I got considerably more fit, because when you're walking around for 8, 10, or 12 hours a day, you lose a lot
Yeah.
of weight.
Oh, I know. When I was working the two different jobs, because I was sometimes even 7 days a week working, and there I was on my feet all day, sometimes from like 9 in the morning till 9 at night, and or later. And I was doing that. Plus, I was trying to squeeze in little workouts where I could. I was still going to the gym once or twice a week because the gym was only like a mile and a half walk away from my bar job. So I would go there either before or after my shift for a while and work out there. Sometimes I'd even just like I would like do crunches or something like in the slow times when nobody was there and it's all quiet. There's a lull. And so I just start kind of doing crunches or like counter push-ups or something. My boss would walk by at first and be like, look at me like, okay then. But it's like, you got to do what you got to do, right? After a while, he didn't really care. But yeah, I got weird looks for a while for doing that. But I mean, when you're working 60 hours a week, you have to make do sometimes and figure out where to go. But I was still on my feet constantly,
Yeah.
But that wasn't enough for me. I wanted to put on actual muscle tone. But
Oh no,
yeah,
actually,
I mean,
now that you mention it, when I was, because I worked away a hell of a lot, um, I kept my ice skates in the boot, trunk. I kept my ice skates in the trunk of the car, and I would go that if I was if I was working on a site and the hotel that I was staying at was close to an ice rink, so I'd finish work, grab something to eat, and then I'd jump in the car, go to an ice rink, throw the
I didn't know
skates
you
on,
ice
and
skated.
just skate for an. Huh?
I didn't even know you ice
Yeah,
skated.
no. I used to. Yeah, no. I mean, I don't get me wrong. I'm not one of the. I can't skate backwards, but I can skate
You're not
forwards, and I
doing
know
twirls and all
I
that.
can't do any of that. I can skate. I can go forwards, and I can stop myself.
That's good.
Learning how to stop without just skating towards the wall and going slam. Okay, I've stopped. I tried to teach myself how to skate backwards, but I would fall on my ass far too often. So it's like I don't need to
Ice
skate.
skating is hard.
I don't
I've
need
done it a few times. It's not easy.
but yeah. So I must admit, doing something like an ice rink, an ice rink or a swimming pool. If there was an ice rink or a swimming pool nearby me, then I would. Yeah, I'd be there in a flash. because I like
Swimming is such good
to do
exercise.
stuff. If you're going to keep yourself in shape, or if you want to get into shape, then find an activity that's fun. And ice skating's fun, because you're getting cardio without getting all like over the top, hot and bothered and sweaty. And
That's why I like
swimming's
swimming.
exactly the same. So that's why I like that's why I like swimming, because you jump in the shower, you jump in the pool. Because if you don't jump in the shower and get all the gop off before and acclimatize your skin to some cold, you're going to jump in the pool and you're going to be like, oh my God, this is cold,
Well, our pool at our gym is heated. It's actually a pretty nice temperature. You can just go right in.
Okay.
But it's a full-on lap pool. So I would kind of change it up. I would do like some laps, and then I would do some kind of just muscle building, toning, targeted exercise for a bit. And then I would do more laps, and then I would switch to a different targeted. And I was seeing progress so fast, and it's easier on my knee too. Like, it hurts, and I get out of the pool and I feel like, oh God, what have I done? But that's the point. You're supposed to feel like, oh God, what have I done when you get out? But yeah, I mean, and it's also just so like, it's quiet, and the sound of the water is just so chill, I'm blaring angry, raunchy industrial music as I'm pumping weights. And then I'm going to the pool where it's nice, zen, quiet, splashy.
Yeah.
And,
you see, I can get
about
balance. I can get in a pool and just do lengths and lengths, because it's like it's working, lots and lots of muscle groups, and then get out of the pool afterwards and think, oh my God, I'm absolutely shattered all over. And it's like, I'm good. And then it's like, oh, that's great. I feel shattered all over. So I know that I've given my entire body.
Exactly. You've given a good workout because you're feeling it.
And every now and then I'll test myself. Every now and then I'll test myself as to whether it's like, okay, so can I bang out 20 push-ups right here, right now, without a warm-up? And if I can do that, it's like, okay, I'm safe. I'm in a safe. I consider that I'm in a safe physical zone at the time. And if I really, really struggle, it's like, crap, I'm gonna have to go out and do some stuff. So
yeah.
Okay, so we've talked about that for about 30 minutes. So let's move on. Let's see what other stuff we got on the list. So we've got a hypocrisy.
Assholes.
Okay, so we
have assholes on the list.
We have assholes, people who behave like assholes, and hypocrisy. So those two things probably, they probably mesh together quite well. There was a lot of hypocrisy and a lot of people behaving like assholes this week. And I must differentiate to those watching. We're not talking about assholes. We're talking about people that behave like assholes. And there is a difference, because we've all, even you, yes, you watching me right now, you too have behaved like I've behaved like an asshole. Harley has behaved like, we've all behaved like assholes. And just to give you an example, we've all been on the road and we've all needed to quickly turn left or quickly turn right without using our signal. And it's
not me.
And it's not you, and the person behind us has gone, my God, what an asshole! And you're like, yeah, that was a bit of an asshole-ish thing for me to do. I should have used my turn signal. I should have given you the warning. It's not for me. It's for the people around me. So some you may have cut in a line. So we've all behaved like assholes. Some people behave like assholes more often than other people. But that's why I like to differentiate between people who behave like assholes and people who are assholes. Because there are exceptions to the rule. There are people that always behave like assholes. I mean, there's a large group of them, and they're all on Twitter. And I dare you to find someone who behaves like an asshole on Twitter that does not behave like an asshole on Twitter with every single tweet they make. And I'm not talking about dark comedians or funny people or people that are deliberately trolling because they're just trolls or roasters or people looking to get a rise out of you. That's just, those people aren't behaving like assholes. They're just assholes. But so there was a lot of hypocrisy going around this week, wasn't there? Because of a certain thing that happened. What was it? It was at the beginning of the week it happened, wasn't it?
Probably.
When did I'm just trying to think. When was it that RBG died?
That was last week.
Was it Monday? Or was it Sunday?
That was last week.
Was it last week?
We talked about it in the last episode, so it was sometime last week. Yeah.
But it's all of the stuff that's happened as a result.
Yeah.
I've been in absolute awe, and I've kind of distanced myself from the whole, the left, right, the nominations and the voting on it, and the confirming of it. That stuff I've kind of like distance myself from. I'm not really concerned with that, but it's the people that are on both sides of the argument making statements about what should be done and how things should proceed, who are saying the exact opposite now from things that they were saying 4 years ago. And it's like, you do realize that we live in an internet age. Everything that you said 4 years ago, people can go and watch. They can do a Google search for it. They can find it using a hashtag on Twitter, or they can find it using a search on YouTube, and they can find you saying, we must do X. And now you're saying we must do Y. And it's like, do you have no principles? You may not like having to stick with what you said 4 years ago and continue saying it now, but people would respect you more if you stuck by your principles. So, there's all of these people who are being extremely hypocritical and being, and it's not just the people that you see. It's not just people that are making public statements. It's people that have said things, just random, regular people that may have said something on Twitter or on Facebook or on some other social media platform, saying one thing, not sticking to their guns, not sticking to their principles, and then, going the other way. It didn't used to happen an awful lot. I remember during the noughties, during the 2000s, that everybody was in agreement that when, for example, Bush and Blair were using drone strikes to try and kill a bunch of bad people, and the people that were opposed to it because the collateral damage was unacceptable. You can't just say there's one bad person there surrounded by 100 good people. We'll try and wait for the good people to leave so that we can take out the bad guy, but we're still going to go for the bad guy. And we'll just accept the collateral damage. And, principled people such as you and I would look at that and go, well, no, excuse me, you are one of the most overfunded groups in the world. You have the resources to 100% guarantee the death of that one bad person without causing the collateral damage. But you choose not to use that method. Now, in the early noughties, it was Bush and Blair doing it. And then towards the end of the 2000s, when it was Obama and the Conservative leader for UK, David Cameron, it's like people stopped complaining about it. People stopped saying this is bad. And I mean, I was still saying that it was bad. And I did have a lot of friends on the left, a good friend of mine, Paul, who I need to get back in touch with and but we went to we attended a peaceful march where it's like, look, we need to air this grievance. We need to, I wasn't one of these people. It's like we just need to stop doing all of these things. We need to stop doing what we're doing. There's a bad person that they are definitely, we know it's a bad person. We know that they're going to try and kill and murder and enslave innocent people. We need to do something about that. It was the method, so whereas I was one of the people that would say it needs to be changed, and other people are like, yeah, you just need to stop going after those people. It's like, well, no, we're talking about a particularly evil person here. If what we're trying to achieve is the eradication of evil people from the world and stopping evil people doing evil things, it just needs to be changed. So drone strikes bad, you
can't fight evil with
exactly.
More
you
evil.
can't fight evil with evil, and I'm not that. I don't think it's a breach of the non-aggression principle to I don't think it's to stop an evil person that is killing hundreds, if not thousands of people, or ordering the deaths of hundreds, if not thousands of people, stopping that individual person. But I believe it's unacceptable for the collateral damage of innocent people around that bad. So I was there, and this was the beauty of it. I mean, I remember being at, something in 2010, and we're arguing about it. But we're arguing about it. We were having a rational conversation, and they're like, "So what do you suggest?" And I'm like, "Well, what's wrong with a special forces team of 12 people locating said individual, putting a bag over his head, and taking him away?" And going putting him for trial. And it's like, oh yeah, but you're putting those guys' lives at risk. It's like, I don't think that you would have any trouble whatsoever finding 12 people that were prepared to put their life on the line in order to remove an evil person. It's like, oh yeah, but it could involve a gunfight, and it could involve this. And I'm like, you're still going to find 12 special forces people that will quite happily say, yeah, you know what, I'm prepared to risk my life in order to stop an evil person. And they're going to be, and they might get into a gunfight, and the people that are protecting that evil person may end up shuffling off this mortal coil. But again, that's their choice. Their choice is to protect and support an evil person, and by default that makes them evil people as well. And then all throughout 2008, all the way through 2012, all the way through 2016, I'm thinking to myself, I'm having conversations with these people, and it's like, you were with me, back in the 2000s, you agreed with my, what happened? Why all of a sudden did you just stop? And it's like, oh, well, he's on my team. And I'm like, no, he's not. Obama may be your team, but David Cameron isn't. So why will you criticize David Cameron for doing something, the leader of the Conservative Party and the leader of the government at the time? Why would you criticize him for using those methods, but not the president of the United States, who, they were close partners in all of this action? All of this action in Syria and Yemen, that they were very, very close partners in those actions that they were carrying out. And it's just, and now it's like the hypocrisy is in overdrive. I mean, serious overdrive. I mean, it was that it was had in civil conversations 10 years ago. Now it's not. It's and people brazenly wear their hypocrisy on their sleeve, and it absolutely boggles my mind. It's like, how can you openly hold a position proudly now that you opposed 4 years ago or 2 years ago? It just, I just don't get it. I really don't get the mind of a person that thinks it's okay to completely flip on principles. And we're not talking about people that flip on an argument. You can be for a position, be presented with better information, and then change your mind. There's nothing wrong with that. That's what rational human beings do. If they're presented with a better argument, with better evidence, then they can change their position. We're talking about a principle, flipping on a principle. And that's different from flipping on an argument because you're presented with better. So I don't know how you feel about this, but it just, honestly, it's so grating. I'm like, really? Come on. I just watched a video of you saying the exact opposite thing. And don't get me wrong, I know that there are some semantics involved in this.
Always.
And there will be people that say, yes, but 4 years ago, it was, the right were in power here and here. The right were in power here, and the other side was in power there, and that's why it didn't happen. And now both sides are in power of the two authorities that are required to do what needs to be done, and that's the difference. And I'm very, very prepared to accept that difference. That is an important context to take into consideration, but that does not negate the reversal of said principle, in my humble opinion.
Honestly, I feel like for a very large amount of people, it's not so much their own principles and standing for what they actually believe in as much as it is out of hate for the other side. So they'll say, I want to see this, that I want to see this group of people do this. I want to see this demographic say that, etc. I want to see us do this. And they'll do that in their own way, but they just want to hate that group so bad that's no, not like that, and then they'll demonize. So like, an example is that we've all been seeing on Twitter, are these leftists, whatever you want to call them, women who do not like the new Supreme Court nominee.
Oh, who's that? I thought he was still going. I thought that the president of the United States was still going over various different options. Has he actually put a person forward now? Has he?
I think from my understanding, so I can't think of her full name, but
I knew that I knew that he had two people. There was two women. There was a Cuban woman from Florida, Cuban judge from Florida that he wanted to put forward, and a woman from, I don't even know what state she's from, but I think there was two female judges that he was going backwards and forwards.
Yeah, this particular
because he came up with that hypocritical statements on Twitter. Because I'm thinking, the next Supreme Justice would be a woman, and I'm thinking to myself, and everybody, all of the people on the right are like, yeah, and I'm thinking to myself, excuse me, but you were having a pop at Biden months and months and months ago for saying the next my vice presidential nominee is going to be a woman, and you're like, oh, so you're not going to pick someone for merit, you're going to pick someone because they're female, and then the right does the exact same thing, and it's like, why aren't you criticizing him?
I know.
I mean, don't get me wrong, we're talking about Supreme Court, nominations and stuff like that. It was just the hypocrisy of it.
I know.
When the left does it, the right attacks them for
that's what I was gonna
and
say,
then the right does it and praises the right praises the president of the United States for doing it, and then it's like, you know what, you're setting yourself up to be attacked for hypocrisy. The sex of someone should not matter
at the same time. At the same time, it's kind of like they're both doing it, because that's what I was going to add before. It's like with the left, that's exactly it. He picked, I guess, I believe she's the official pick, I think. And from my understanding, she is a Catholic mother.
Oh, yeah, I know who you're talking about
children.
now.
Yeah, of 7 children. I know some are adopted. I don't know exactly how many are adopted. I know at least some are adopted.
Now I know exactly who you're talking about. I think she's called Amy Comey Barrett, ACB.
Yeah.
She is a Catholic woman.
Yeah.
Who has 7 children, 5 of her own, and two adopted children from Haiti. Yeah.
Okay. So
she's not the only one that's done that. I mean,
no. And there's nothing wrong with it if you ask me. I mean, but the problem is now it's, you adopted minority children, but you didn't do it our way. And people are actually questioning the legitimacy of how she got the children. They're questioning how she can be a good mother, being somebody who works full-time in a political position. How can you even raise 7 children and all this stuff? And it's like, we're demonized if we want to be stay-at-home moms working with our kids. We're demonized if we want to have kids and work a career. We're demonized for every goddamn thing. And feminists will say that. Feminists will say we are constantly demonized for our personal choices of how we want to raise a family, or if we don't want to raise a family, or if we want to work, or if we don't want to work, if we want to be a full-time mom while there's a stay-at-home dad. We're all demonized for it. I agree. So stop fucking doing it to us just because they're a different political demographic from you.
Yeah, you ladies can be like really nasty to each other.
Honestly, it's it's like, you know what? I know multiple progressive women who have a bunch of kids. Nobody's saying anything about them.
No.
Because it doesn't matter. It's their personal choice.
So hang on a minute. There are people saying that there's a right way and a wrong way to adopt children.
Now, apparently, it's racist to adopt children outside of your own race because you're trying to, you're basically being a white colonial, and you're trying to save them from their own minority culture, whatever culture they have, whatever ethnicity they have. You're trying to whitewash them.
That doesn't make any sense. No one
This
was
is what I'm saying. They're
no one was
pulling
criticizing
shit out of
her.
their ass. Yeah, they're pulling out random shit out of their ass, not because they are actually believing in what they're saying. It's because they just hate the other side that much. They will just say whatever they can to demonize them. That's all it is. And both sides do it like crazy. It's absurd. There's no backbone to their beliefs.
Well, I suppose the reason why that doesn't make sense to me is because didn't Schumer do the exact same thing? And isn't he a Democrat? I'm sure that Schumer adopted a child from a Haiti orphanage. And here's the thing: it's not about. I think people put too much emphasis on the word. Put too much emphasis on the word adoption. You have to legally, because of the system that has been set up, you have to do something legally called adoption in order to take care of someone that cannot take care of themselves. And I think it's a wonderful thing to do as a human being to become the caretaker and the custodian of a human being that is incapable of taking care of themselves. I mean, that would be like, you wouldn't attack a person that runs an orphanage. So let's say, for example, there's a privately funded orphanage, and that privately funded orphanage has a half a dozen people running it. So that half a dozen people are of all different races and ethnicities, and the children in said orphanage are all different races and ethnicities and sexes. You would not say to the people that run the orphanage, "Oh, you're bad people. You're doing this, that, and the other." It's like that they're trying to take custody and they're trying to look after human beings. I mean, you've got to not think of it as, adults and kids. You've got to think of it as, here's some human beings that are able to look after other human beings that cannot look after themselves. I mean, if you think of it from that point, then you would then be having, it's like, well, what about nursing homes? What about nurses? What about a nurse 24-hour cares for an elderly person that can't look after themselves? Does that mean that if the race and the ethnicity of the nurse and the elderly person that can't look after themselves has to be the same? Are they trying to colonialize, the elderly patient that they're looking after? No, boil it down to the action. The action is a human being who wants to and is prepared to look after another human being that can't take care of themselves for X amount of years.
They say it's bragging rights. I adopted a minority child, therefore I'm special and I saved this child. So that's seriously what they're saying now, is that they're only adopt children of other races for bragging rights.
Hang on a minute. The people that criticize her for doing that do that themselves all the time. It's called virtue signaling.
That's exactly. And that's the thing.
So it's all right for them to virtue signal, but not for anybody else.
You break it down. It's like, most of the population in the United States, like 70% or so, give or take, is Caucasian. Okay. That's just how it is. And so it's just, going to be where most families that are able to adopt are going to be Caucasian. And so what are we going to do? Say, no, you can't adopt this African-American child because you're white, and then force this kid to stay in a largely Caucasian-ran government care system for that much longer?
Exactly. They're still being looked after. You're absolutely right. That in the orphanage, they're probably still going to be looked after and cared for by by a person that is of a different race or ethnicity than them. And they're just trying to do what they think is right. It's like, here's a bunch of humans, here's a bunch of people that can't look after themselves, and I'm going to do my damnedest to make sure that, they're looked after until they reach a mature enough age where they can, go off into the world and look after themselves.
Yeah. But I mean, that's just it. And then it's like, what if you're waiting to save these children to be forcing them to hold out from families until they can get hopefully placed with a family that matches their own race. Like, that, for one thing, that's going to largely, that can just backfire so quickly. You know, certain states just have higher and lower populations of different demographics. So, I mean, that could just be such a waiting game. And that's not fair to the child at all whatsoever. The care systems, foster care systems, they're horrible. They're absolutely horrible. Every person I've met who was ever placed in a foster care system all said it was absolutely the worst. Abusive in multiple aspects, whether it just be verbally abusive, sexually abusive, like all, from the actual caretakers themselves. It's a horrible system. Why would you want to force these kids to stay in it longer without a family? Just because you're concerned that maybe this white family is going to adopt an African-American child, Mexican child, whatever it may be, just for bragging rights. You're forcing this poor kid to have no real childhood, no real love because of your own paranoias. How is that fair? That doesn't even make any sense. So to demonize anybody, and then, but then, of course, if you say, well, then, you know, if the white family is going to adopt a white kid, then, oh, they're only sticking their own race because that's all they care about. They're racist and they're
you're damned if you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't.
Yeah, exactly. It's damned if you do, damned if you don't. It's like, just let them adopt a kid, let them love the kid. Okay, like it just it's amazing the lengths people will go to out of hate. It's not based on their own principles. It's not based on what they really believe in. It's based on simply hating the other side and making them look bad in any sort of way you can come up with. That's what this is. I mean, that's all over. Right wing does it hardcore too. You know, it's not going to get us anywhere. I promise you that.
Attacking, and being nasty, and attacking and being nasty people who are prepared to, put in the time and the effort and the resources to look after another human being who is incapable of looking after themselves should be I'm not suggesting they should be glorified, but you can at least commend them and say, hey, you know what, I don't have the time or the resources to do something like that, but I can appreciate that what you're doing is good for the person that you're doing it for. You're on that one thing. You can disagree with other things that they do, but on that one thing, you've got to say, hey, you're doing a good thing. You're taking care of a couple of people that can't take care of themselves. I vehemently disagree with you on this, but on that one thing, I'll give you props. And I don't understand why people can't do that. It's like you're picking the wrong thing to attack this person over. You know, you really, really are. You're picking the wrong thing. And you're going to die on, if this is the hill that you really want to die on, you're going to die on that hill really, really, really fast. The problem obviously with social media is a person never dies on, and a person never actually dies on that hill, unless they were to be, banned or have their account deleted for them. A person, I'll die on this hill. It's like, well, yeah, but you never actually going to die on that hill. If there was no social media and you were using a megaphone or you were talking loudly to a group of people, that group of people would be like, you're talking shit, I'm going. And then they'd leave and no one would be listening to you anymore. But because you're on a social media platform, you can keep spouting off the same bull crap. It's like, oh crap, so people will always listen to them. So you attack this woman taking into custody and being the the caregiver for people that can't look after themselves, and you attack them for that, when if you just did a little bit of research, I'm sure you could probably find some judgment that they made when they were a judge on court and they ruled in an opposite way, and you could go, hey, I don't agree with what they did here for reasons X, Y, and Z, and this is my rational and my reasonable and my put together argument about why this person was wrong about that. Now that I can go with, you know, I can have a conversation with you about that. It's like, oh, so you think that was wrong for that? Well, what about this? And what about that? And then you rebut, and then you argue, and then you counter argue. And that is something that people enjoy doing. And that's how you flesh things out, and that's how you come to rational agreements, or you come to
that's not the goal, though. That takes effort. That takes time to actually look up and
effort, doesn't it? Exactly.
In reality, they can just sit there and pick apart, nitpick little stupid crap and go, and that's just so much easier. It's not about what's actually right and wrong. It's just about finding ways to make them look bad. That's all it is. And it's so dumb. You know, I actually had last week there was a similar conversation kind of that I had on Twitter where someone put up a video of who they said were Antifa members. I don't know for sure, but they said they were. And they were in a park whacking each other with foam swords. All right. Like, that's all they were doing was goofing off, whacking each other with foam swords. That's all they were doing. Like, yeah. And, you know, the guy that shared the video is like, oh, this is so juvenile, pathetic, and blah, blah, and just tearing them apart. And I'm like,
they're not harming anyone.
Exactly. I'm like, you know, I don't exactly side with Antifa either. I can acknowledge the damage they've done for sure. Okay. But they're just goofing off, having a good time, you know, like of all things that's exactly it. Of all things to nitpick, are we really going to nitpick this harmless, goofy fun in the park, not hurting anybody? And somebody was arguing with me about that. Like, you know, well, it's demoralizing the enemy, and it's a self-defense tactic to do so. And I'm like, okay, first of all, they don't give a shit about what you think. They know people are going to look at them and go, what the fuck are they doing? They don't care, obviously, since they're in the middle of a public park whacking each other with foam swords. They don't fucking care what you think. Secondly, this is an activity that people of like all different demographics do, because sometimes it's just fun to be stupid and immature and have some harmless fun beating the shit out of each other with foam fucking swords. It's just stupid, mindless, goofing off. And people of all types just do shit like that time to time. Water balloons or whatever it may
water
be.
Pistols.
Find some stupid fun. It's harmless.
It's harmless.
So, here's the thing. When you demonize a group of people for performing an action, and you're saying, oh, because this action is stupid, this action is whatever, you know, whatever negative words you want to use, you're also demonizing those who might be on your side who do the same thing. Okay.
Is what they're doing harmless? If it's harmless, let people do it.
Right. It's like when people say, it's kind of like back to the fat shaming thing. It's like when somebody is being a general jackass or whatever, or maybe even not. Maybe they're not hurting anybody, and they're maybe they're plus size, and you make a comment and say, oh, look at that, that fat lard or something like that. And maybe they were being a jackass, but you decide to say, oh, that fat lard, while you have friends who are on your side, but of similar body type. Then it's like, is that how you view me, as a fat lard? You know what I mean? Like, it's going to cause sort of some issues in between people that would actually be on your side.
Yeah, just stick with arsehole. Just stick with arsehole. So much easier.
Well, I'm just trying to point out it's damaging to do that, because it's like, okay, you just called, your enemy, so to speak, fat, and use it as a very negative, in a very negative connotation. Meanwhile, you have people on your side who are of a similar body type. So it's like, is that how you feel about them too? Oh, well, not you. You're fine. Let's get on you. Yeah, that just sounds fake. You know what I mean? Don't the backpedaling just sounds fake. So, and it's the same thing. It's the exact same concept. You can say, oh, they're so immature, blah, blah, blah. I mean, there were some libertarian, small L, big L, who are a couple of them who are saying it too. And it's like, I'd go whack somebody with a foam sword and just goof off for a while. Why not? I could be completely agree with you in every single aspect politically, but you're going to think I'm stupid and immature, blah, 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 because I'm out with my friends whacking each other with a foam sword. Like, is that really how you want the message you want to portray? Like, that's actually damaging. That's legitimately damaging to people that could be on your side. It's no different than how I get crap for my hair color or for my piercings. It's like, okay, I may not look like a standard like, I say anarchist. I mean like actual agorist area anarchists, not Antifa anarchists, because I look like those. I may not look like the right side of anarchy, but that doesn't mean I should get people jumping down my throat just because I don't. I'm still on your team. So maybe don't attack those who are on your team. And that just brings me back to the point. It's not about actually pointing out what's wrong. It's just about hating the enemy for any reason they can. That's all it is. It's just out of anger.
Yeah.
And it's petty, honestly.
And the thing is, it's trying to figure out when it's going to stop. And this brings us on to, another one. One of the other things, the one person rule. It's people arguing and fighting and hating one side or the other, and they're using this argument that the world is going to end if we don't change, or if we don't put this one individual person in a position of authority to save us. And it's like, no one person can do that. No one person has the power, no matter what position of authority you put them in, to save the world. Except, I don't know, maybe Superman, but he's not a real person, So people saying that, people on both sides saying, we must put the right person must replace RBG. Our life depends on it, and it's like, no, it really, really doesn't.
No,
it really doesn't. I mean, I think the most common argument that I've heard from people on the left, which is a logical fallacy, is that, well, if the right put somebody on the court, then they're going to reverse Roe v. Wade, and Roe v. Wade is has like a less than one, but you're not likely to see that reversed. But let's say in some alternate dimension it was to be reversed, it doesn't instantly mean that abortion becomes illegal again. It just means that the states decide. So all of the people that don't want it to be reversed, that live in California and that live in New York, you're still going to be able to do exactly what you want to do regarding legislation towards whether abortion should be legal or illegal. Nothing's going to change there. But what could potentially change is a group of people in a geographic location that disagree with that could say, well, we don't want this to happen in our community, in our geographic location. And if what the people on the left are basically saying is, if we don't get what we want, we're not going to be able to force people to do what we want in that geographic location and that geographic location and that geographic location. And they're not going to be able to force people who they do not know, never interact with, and will never, ever, ever have anything to do with ever in their entire lives, but they want to force their morals and their ethics on them.
Yeah.
And it's just not going to happen. And it's not just RBG. It's the presidency of the United States. The whole point of the American system is the whole checks and balances system. Whether I disagree with it or not, because of my own personal ideology, the whole point of having the checks and balances system is so that no one executive branch can dictate to everybody else what they want. And it's like, so if you're arguing, and this is what the left is doing, in my mind, is they're arguing that they must have a president so that things can't be done, so that everything is fair, are now saying that if they don't get what they want to protect equality and to protect, the checks and balances, that they're going to uncheck the checks and balances by potentially creating new states, which would create new senators that they then believe will be on their team, and that they would put in more judges onto the Supreme Court so that they get judgments their way. So it's like what you're arguing is for a system that you think that you're going to control because you don't like the way that things are being checked and balanced at the moment, so that there are no checks and balances, what do you think is going to happen? It's going to get used against you.
Yeah.
It's going to be, if you create an authoritative system that can be used against your enemies can then take, what if your enemies take control of that authoritative system and use it against you? You're going to make it, what you're going to do, try and get back power and then make it more authoritative in your direction. That the exact same thing is then going to happen in another generation. Your enemies will take power, and that's what's happened. And it has happened, it has happened before. I mean, for goodness sake, when the left had total control, so they had the Senate and Congress, right? And they had the judge, they had the sway on the Supreme Court, and they had the presidency. What did you do with it? You guys on the left, you didn't do an awful lot with it. So the suggestion that you're going to change it so that it goes back to you is kind of meaningless, because you didn't do anything with that authority of particular good use anyway. So you've got people arguing that this one person rule, we must have this person to do this, or the world is going to end. And it's like, you've had that. You literally had that, and you did nothing with it. So what makes you think that you can argue that position again now, when it didn't change anything before? You elected Obama, and that was it. Boom, you had everything. You had absolutely everything, and you didn't do anything with it. And what happened 2 years later? The people said, you're not doing anything, so let's reintegrate the checks and balances. Maybe somebody else will do something. And it's almost like competition. You need competition. Because we all know in a free market, competition, it breeds, it gives you good, having competition in a free market system gives you good things. And if you had that in politics, then maybe, like a clock is wrong twice a day, maybe you'll get those two things right every now and then. Unfortunately, you don't have competition. In certain states, there is no competition. It's a one-party system in a lot of states. If there was competition in those states, arguing and bantering and cajoling and trying to get things done, maybe things would get done. But so I don't know how you feel about the one part, but that's the way I feel. No one person in a position of authority can change the world. They can change. They can certainly, don't get me wrong, they can certainly change things. They can influence, but they can't change the world.
No, they can. There's just so many different issues to change anyway. It's kind of like the phrase, it takes a village to raise a child. It's almost like that. And I'm not saying like everybody needs authority figures, but we could all use those different types of role models, influences in different areas of our lives. Maybe some person is motivational and inspirational in regards to environmental protection or just like whatever. And then someone else does the same thing in regards to speaking up for abuse victims. Everyone kind of has like a different role that speaks to different people regarding on different issues. You need multiple people to reach out and influence people in different regards, because there's just a lot of different reasons why we all need saving. There's not one reason why. So yeah, I mean, you can have somebody who, like Ron Paul, he has definitely influenced a lot of people to wake up and really take it, look at liberty at a completely different light. A lot of people are like, oh yeah, I used to be a hardcore Obama supporter. I used to be a hardcore Bush supporter, whatever. And then Ron Paul came along and he made so much sense. And he talked about this. And I actually was just reading last night about how, and I think this is actually kind of funny, kind of goes back to the whole double standards thing. I did not know that Ron Paul delivered thousands of babies for low-income families or even those who are on state insurance for free. treated them for free.
Treated them for free, yeah.
I did not know that. I didn't know that until I saw a screenshot of someone saying that on Twitter, and I was like, really? And so I looked it up, and I'm like, oh my gosh, yeah, he actually he just did not accept payment. He would not accept payment, and he did this for years. And apparently, once he actually got into Congress, he used his day off to fly back and continue doing it on his days off for like 9 years. I'm like, that's incredible. That is really, really, really incredible, honestly. And I said something about it on my Facebook. I'm like, I didn't know this was a thing, but now I do. Almost no reactions. The only ones who really did, were already libertarian, anarchists, etc. The progressive people didn't say anything. And it's like, if you found out Obama did this, you would be kissing the ground he walked on. If you found out Biden did this, if you found out any Democratic nominee did this, you would be praising them as the selfless hero. If you found out Bernie did this, oh my gosh, I wouldn't be hearing the end of it if Bernie did all that. So why? Because it's Ron Paul, a libertarian, you hardly care? Double standards, And so I mean, Ron Paul didn't exactly have much of an influence on me and my path to agorism, etc. I know lots of people who he did have an influence on, but when I first heard of him, it was actually around the 2012 elections, and I looked into him and I read up on his views and his policies, and I actually agreed largely. I'm like, yep, this checks, but there was still he's a politician though, so how much can I take seriously? Because this is the first time I heard of him. I mean, that was honestly the first stage I would have even been legally able to vote. Yeah. Okay, so I was still pretty young and all that. And so there was still he's still a politician. I don't know how much I could take seriously. I agree. That sounds good on paper.
Yeah, Dr. No.
But, so I didn't
no on everything.
Right. So I was like, yeah. So I'm like, yeah, that's exactly it. I already shared similar views anyway. So it wasn't already an influence. It was already kind of there. So for me personally, no, he didn't have that much of an influence. But I know so many people did. And they were like, yeah, I was such a freaking bootlicker. I was such a statist. I was such a cocksucker, etc. Until I discovered Ron Paul. And he changed me for the good. And now I see, liberty for how it should be, etc. And that's wonderful. And so, I mean, and I know that's why a lot of people were so scared when he had his stroke on his live stream.
Oh,
they were
God,
like,
yeah, no.
Like my hero,
I was like, yeah, I tweeted about it. I mean, I don't like to talk about anything other than games on my game Twitter account. But somebody posted in there, about him, and prayers for, they simply said, prayers for Ron Paul, and my quote tweet on that was, I'm not a religious person, but yes, don't you effing dare 2020.
Right? I was actually a little pissed off at how much I had to dig for information when that happened. If it was Bernie Sanders, it would have been all over the news. If it was Biden, obviously Biden, because he's the, actual candidate, but Democratic candidate. But if it happened to him, it would have been all over the news. If it happened to any of the other Republican or Democratic big names, it would have been all over the news. He's in the hospital right now suffering a stroke. So I'm seeing all these people for a while talking vaguely about Ron Paul, not really outwardly saying what happened, just like, don't take him away or prayers for Ron Paul. And I'm like, what the hell is happening? And so I looked it up on Google trying to figure out what's going on, and I couldn't find anything. Absolutely no information about him whatsoever. So I had to read multiple threads with different comments, looking, did somebody freaking say what's going on? Until finally I saw somebody say something, but it was like, why did I have to search this much for it? Because nobody cares. Nobody cares because he's libertarian.
I think the only commentator I saw discuss it was Tim Paul. Tim Paul did mention it. So it's definitely the fact that it happened, it did get out there to hundreds of thousands of people.
It finally did, but it took a while, it wasn't on mainstream outlets for a good while. I was looking around Google and everything, trying to find something, and I couldn't find anything. I had to rely on people on Twitter who actually like watched it and saw it happen go, yeah, this is what's going on. And, you know, again, it's double standard. If this happened to any of the other big names, people would be like, oh, prayers for them, prayers. And, you know, don't you take them away. Like, but it'd be on much larger scale. Because it happened to a libertarian candidate, it's just silenced.
Yeah,
you know, just
because he was for all intents and purposes a libertarian candidate.
Yeah,
he was a rhino. You know, He was Republican in name only. He was not a Republican in any way, shape, or form. A bit like Trump is a Republican in name only. Trump's not a Republican. Yeah. He's a Clinton Democrat. And the only reason why he didn't run as a Democrat was because Hillary was running at the same time, and he wanted to run and win. So it's like, well, if I run as a Democrat, I'm probably not going to win because, you know, they'll just give the nomination to Hillary Clinton. But if I run as a Republican, I can, you know, that's a ticket, that's a primary, I can win.
Right.
So if Clinton, I mean, I stand by this. I stand by it today. If Hillary Clinton had not run in 2016, if she'd not been a nominee, Trump would have run as a Democrat, and he would have run on the exact same Democrat policies that got Bill Clinton into office in the 90s. And that's exactly what he would have done, because he would have used every single one of those policies that he was happy to dole money out to politicians for, to the Democratic politicians.
I think he had kind of an advantage on both aspects there, both with the running as a Republican and running as a Democrat, because you're right. Like, you know, he definitely could have done all that. At the same time, he had a bit of a following already through like Fox News sources, et cetera, as sort of like, I guess, I don't know how to describe it. I mean, like, I don't personally watch a lot like Fox News. I don't watch news sources anymore in general, but like some of my family, if I'd visit them, they'd often have Fox News on. And there were so many times, like well before he was running for anything, Trump was a guest speaker on Fox News talking about immigration, talking about building up the economy and getting people more jobs, et cetera. So he was already fairly well known to a lot of Republicans, you know, mainly ones who watch Fox News in that regard. So he already had that support. And then, like you said, he could have, you know, easily ran as a Democrat for all those reasons. So I feel like he had a pretty good chance just either way. Honestly.
That's one of the reasons why I think Ron Paul switched from running on the Libertarian ticket to running on the Republican ticket, because in 2012, when it clearly looked like he was not going to get the Republican. So that's why there was a lot of people saying, oh, you know, he's not going to win the Republican primary in 2000, you know, for 2012. So, you know, is he gonna do an independent run afterwards? And obviously he was saying at the time, no. And that was when we kind of got the feeling, you know, this is it. This is his last hurrah. You know, this is his last hurrah. And, you know, I just remember him, the stuff that he said in the debates, so not Republican. It's like, well, I'm going to shut down this federal department, this one. And he's like listing off federal departments that he's going to shut down. And you're like, Republicans don't like shutting down federal departments.
Right.
Like, they don't like shutting down federal agencies. And it's the complete opposite. And, you know, it's like, oh, I'll give you a reading list, you know, go and read these books and go and read that. And, you know, he's like, we need, you know, one of my favorite quotes, it's like, friendship with everybody, entangling alliances with no one. Which are like, which is the perfect voluntarist thing to say. Yes, you know, let's be friends with everyone, but not get involved in, you know, entangling alliances and contract this, that, and the other. It's let's just be friends with everyone, and that way we can all cooperate and we can all get along, but, you know, not have entangling alliances. So, you know, and that I think that was one of the reasons why. But he was using the megaphone of the Republican Party, because he obviously, his experience from 1988 when he was the Libertarian candidate was that the only way I'm going to be heard and my ideas are going to be heard is if I'm either running as a Democrat or I'm running as a Republican, because you have a two-party system here. You know, that's just the way things go. And Joe Jorgensen can megaphone and shout from the rafters all she wants, but I mean, the closest a third party ever came was what was that guy in 1992? The guy that the Democrats loved because it cost Bush his second term. I'm sure there was a third party candidate that got 15% of the vote in 1992, and basically
I was a year old. I don't know.
right. Yeah, no. The early 90s, the early 90s for me were very, like my formative years, because I saw a lot of things on news. Obviously, I was in the UK at the time. You had the Gulf War. You had the first Gulf War kicking off, and in the UK we had Margaret Thatcher in power, who was eventually ousted and replaced with John Major. We actually had one of the most powerful protest movements that worked in the United Kingdom during that time period. Actually, it was a very, very interesting period of time. The government tried to implement a new tax system on the population, and 10 million people said no. Like literally 10 million people said, well, we're not going to pay it. And the courts and the police basically said, well, that's too many people for us to deal with. We're not going to do it. We're not going to arrest, and we're not going to charge, and we're not going to take to court any of these people because it's just not physically possible.
Right.
And what happened? The Prime Minister of the time got ousted, and the new leader basically said, I'll get rid of it. I'll abolish that tax and I'll get rid of it. So 10 million people protested by saying, we're not going to participate. We're not going to join. Non-participation. It works, and it was, so sorry. Tangent alert. I got stuck in 1992 mode then. So, but yeah, so to kind of end things off there, the one person rule, because we did talk about that no one person in authority has the power to change the world. So all of the people screaming from the rafters that vote because your life depends on it. It's like, no, stop using that argument. If you genuinely think that voting for a person is going to be better for someone than voting for the other person, then at least have the temerity to put forward a well-reasoned argument. Okay? You can't argue from morals and ethics. I'm telling you that now. You cannot argue from a position of morals and ethics, because the people that you're arguing for or against have no morals and ethics. So you can only argue from a position of policy. This person's policy is better than this person's policy. That's it. That's that is your only argument. Nothing else is valid. You cannot argue from morals or ethics that this person is better than this person, because, like I said, none of the people you're arguing for or against have legitimate or good morals and ethics.
I almost feel like there's this sort of like Messiah delusion that both sides have. A lot of Republicans, they tend to be Christian, and it's almost like they're sort of waiting for a Messiah, a savior, a prophet. I mean, there's so many people that flat out call Trump a prophet. They're waiting. So to them, it's this one person that can save us because it's appointed by God or whatever. And then on the left, it's almost like, it's kind of like the same thing, but it's more of a like fictional character kind of mindset. Because a lot of these people on the left, they tend to be fairly into a lot of pop culture. They like a lot, they tend to be fairly nerdy, and it's like, and so they're growing up, reading like Harry Potter. Harry Potter is the one that that saved us all, and Frodo saved us all, and Superman saved us all, Batman saved the city. Everyone, it's like this one particular hero saved whatever, saved humanity, saved the city, whatever. It's the little underdog that rose above and stood up and ended up saving everybody. And that's in a lot of stories, that's in a lot of literature and movies, etc. And it sort of instills like this one person can change everything kind of view. And so that's how they see all these political candidates and everyone else is like, this is one person that's going to rise and save us. And that's not reality, guys.
No, it's not.
That's not reality.
We can't all have Buffy the Vampire Slayer headstones at the end of season 5 where it simply says she saved the world a lot.
Right? No, that's exactly it. And And gosh, and I'm so sick of seeing, for a fact that's essentially what they think, is that they are comparing this to like heroes, etc. Because how many times have we seen these edits of like the Avengers with all the freaking Democratic politicians' faces, and then Trump is Thanos, and it's like, oh God, it's so cringy. This is how they're seeing it. They're seeing it as, either one particular hero, usually surrounded by a small group of other people that they're sidekicks, that's going to save everybody. And then the right, they literally will say, Trump is our prophet. Trump was sent by God. Trump is our new savior. And it's like,
oh no, stop it, please. No. Stop. Both of you, both sides.
Why both of you? Stop it.
Both of you, stop it. Although I will say that the left doesn't know how to meme and the right definitely knows how to meme. My favorite meme from the last 24 hours, and it came out quick, and they always come out quick. It was a Ron Paul meme, and it's 4 squares. And the first one is, the Ron Paul, where he's, you can clearly see him, starting to have his stroke. And then the next one is here, a continuation of that, and then you see the Grim Reaper coming, and it's like
I know what you mean.
It's time to go. And then the third one is, it has the Federal Reserve been abolished yet? And then the one is like, no, and it's just him sat in his bed giving the thumbs up, and I'm like,
laser eyes.
Yeah, with laser. It's just so funny, because it's like, yeah, you can say it's just like he'll be a brain in a glass jar, living for eternity, and he's not going to shuffle off this mortal coil until he sees the Federal Reserve, which you and I both know it's not going to ever happen in his lifetime. That is, the Federal Reserve will never be abolished in his lifetime. It's just not going to happen. It took, it was created 100 years ago, and it's probably going to take 100 years for people to actually be like, yeah, you know what? Maybe this isn't the best idea. Let's get rid of it.
I feel like this delusion is also part of just what, when you stop and you tell people when you're voting, it's honestly incredibly conceited, because you're saying, I know what's best for everybody. I know what choices need to be made for everybody. And I am so confident in my choices, in my opinions, that I am actually willing to make other people have to follow them by threats of violence, by force, by gunpoint. That's how confident in my opinions I am. And it's this like, it's almost, maybe it's this like little bit of like, maybe I'm the hero, maybe I'm the one that's going to save everybody, and that's why people get on their high horse, and everybody gets on their high horse to some extent. The difference is, are you getting on your high horse and are you just sharing your opinions, or are you trying to use violence to implement your opinions on other people? That's the key difference there. So, but people don't realize, it's like, no, everyone is so different. You don't know what's best for everybody. You can't save everybody. No one person truly knows what's best for everybody and can save everybody. It's just not possible. There's too many different issues. There's too many different backgrounds and needs, and that we can't even comprehend, so.
At least
it's all delusion.
In the United States, at least you don't have it as bad as other countries. Other countries are full on democracy. So, certain countries, I would say, like, countries like the United Kingdom and a lot of European countries are full on democracy. So it is literally, a sheep voting over who's going to be the next meal. But at least in the United States, it's an armed sheep. Whereas in most other countries, it's a sheep and 2 wolves deciding who's going to be who's going to be lunch. At least it's an armed sheep pointing the gun at the 2 wolves to keep them in line, as opposed to full on.
Makes me think of this image I saw, a little goat, and he's like got guns on the side, and it's just says, I'd like to see the chupacabra try now.
It's still a sheep, but at least it's an armed sheep.
Exactly. At least, yeah.
It's a sheep, but it's still an armed sheep. So it's still not the best analogy to be put into, but it's a better analogy than just two wolves and a sheep deciding who gets lunch, or who is lunch. So
Right.
anyway, we've been going for an hour and 35 minutes. So
Perfect.
shall we wrap this up? I like the idea of your questions. So asking people questions. So I think this week's question should be regarding the people who behave like assholes. Be honest. And throw it down in Twitter. We'll ask the question on Twitter. When was the last time you behaved like an asshole? Be honest. Did you cut in
How often
line
do
at
I
the post
threaten
office?
people to guaro up their ass? I'm kind of an asshole all the time.
So that'll be the question. But yes, obviously this is episode 3, so we want more likes, we want more subs. We want you to put comments down in the comments below. I mean, put it in the comment below. It doesn't have to be on Twitter where you answer that question. When was the last time you behaved like an asshole? Put it in the comments below. We need more subscriptions. We need more likes. We need more comments. Or the algorithm won't pick us up. Because this is a long-form conversation. This is not one of those 10, 15 minutes that gets spread throughout YouTube. It's one of those long-form conversations. And you have to go looking for it. So that's my... You got anything else you'd like to say, Harley, before we end the podcast?
Not that I can think of. Don't be an asshole. That's my advice. Don't be an asshole, guys.
And just be a small one. And yeah, we will see you guys for episode 4 next week. Thanks a lot. Cheerio.
Bye, guys.